What's up, Headless Sword? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk a little bit about episode 12 of The Bad Batch, season 3, and this one is titled Juggernaut. So we open up the episode with the assassin troopers ship docking into Tantus, and then we see Omega walking off of the ship, and who's meeting her there? Of course, it's Hemlock. What I want to really mention about this scene is the music is absolutely epic. As much as I love the music in the last 3 episodes, this one might even be better. So the music is really bringing that dark tone, and that is one thing I am really loving about season 3 so far. We then see Hemlock pass off Omega to Dr. Carr and basically says, "Let me know when the testing has been completed." So here we're going to see Carr test Omega's blood to basically confirm what they already know. Back over at Pabu, we see the Bad Batch. Now, we don't really get any type of argument or confrontation with Crosshair, which I kind of felt was a little bit of a bad move, I guess. And I think most people wanted to see that interaction between, especially Crosshair and Hunter. But we really don't get anything. We actually have Wrecker, who, magically is already better from his concussion or whatever he ended up suffering. He's actually the one who brings up the fact that Crosshair basically let Omega turn herself in, which then Crosshair does explain that if he doesn't allow her to do that, the entire planet is probably going to be destroyed. But it was interesting that they decided not to have any type of confirmation. But it is interesting they didn't have any type of confrontation at all. It was basically like, okay, let's just go. So that was kind of a miss in my opinion. And then out of nowhere, we get Fee coming up through this, like, I don't even know what you would call it, elevator or something through the ground. And she's talking about how she came into the secret tunnels. So Crosshair is like, well, we don't have the Marauder anymore, so let's go ahead and take your ship, and we're going to try to find Tantus. Feed has no idea where it is, but of course, she has all these connections all the time. So she thinks she knows where she can find the coordinates. We see them kind of fly off in her ship, and basically what they're going to be trying to do here is we're trying to find Vice Admiral Rampart, who we haven't seen since, I think, episode 8 of season 2. Now, here's a little backstory on Vice Admiral Rampart. He served the Empire during its transition from the Republic, and then he eagerly took on the role. He was actually all gung-ho about the Republic becoming the Galactic Empire. So following the end of the Clone Wars and the formation of the Galactic Empire in 19 BBY, Rampart served as an officer in the new empire, and again, he held the rank of Vice Admiral. Now, after the destruction of Camino, now remember, this is the planet where all of the clone troopers were created. This planet ended up blowing up and it was completely wiped out by the Empire back in season 1 of The Bad Batch and the finale. The Empire went ahead and explained it as a storm. A major storm had hit and it just destroyed Camino. What we ended up finding out was, with the help of Captain Rex and the Bad Batch, that in episode 8 of season 2, called Truth and Consequences, that they found out that it was actually Rampart, and he was exposed as a mass murderer before the Imperial Senate. Now, this actually appeared to be a small victory for the Bad Batch over the Empire. However, Palpatine himself made a rare appearance in the Senate chamber. So instead of defending Rampart, which, most people probably watching, or, you would think that he would be defending him, he actually immediately pinned the entire tragedy on Rampart, suggesting that the Vice Admiral had defied orders and decided to attack Camino himself. Palpatine then extended the blame to the clones under Rampart's command, using the fact that they blindly followed him in such a devastating order to justify the creation of a new Imperial Stormtrooper army. This moment actually really showcased Palpatine's ruthlessness and doomed Rampart to the same fate suffered by many of the clones as they were sent away to this colony, basically where they were slaves. Now, one interesting thing that really happened in this episode is, especially early on, before we actually get to like the action, they really started focusing on Crosshair's hand. His hand was shaking several different times. I'm really starting to think that this isn't really the Crosshair. This is a genetically created clone of Crosshair. And because things didn't go right, his behaviors are not the same. I'm starting to think that the assassin clone is actually going to end up being Crosshair. That's the more and more I think about this theory, the more I can see it making a lot of sense. So let me know down in the comments, guys. Who do you think the assassin clone is? Because I really do think it's going to end up being Crosshair. Back on the ship, then one little issue I had. So what they're doing is they're headed off to this Imperial labor camp, and it's called Erebus. And one thing I thought was silly is so she turns off the engine so she can kind of cloak the shirt, and we're talking about Fee here, right? And why were there pedals on this spaceship? It's weird. Like, put them on a speeder bike, but why does a spaceship have pedals? I don't know. I thought that was odd. All right, so once they land, they do tend to find Rampart pretty quickly, which is fine because I didn't want it to get dragged out, but it just seemed like it was really easy to find him, in this big Imperial labor camp. And, he happened to be on this one transport, and they just found it out so fast. I'm like, but again, it's bad enough that we've dragged on half of the season anyways, which we'll talk a little bit later on. But I thought it was weird it was happening so quickly. So once they get the Rampart, he says that nobody knows the coordinates of Tantus, and it was actually designed that way. So that, they go through a big rescue scene, just some basic action that's pretty typical. The chase scene was pretty good. It just reminded me a lot of what we've already seen when we saw it in Mandalorian season 2, when we had Bill Burr's character and we see Mando take his helmet off, and they're trying to get into the Imperial base. It just a lot of callbacks to that. I feel like we've already seen it, but again, it was fine for what it was. So they end up taking Rampart, and he, like I said, he mentions that nobody knows the coordinates. Then we flash over to Tantus again, and this is where we see Hemlock bring Omega back over to Dr. Carr, and basically says that, let me know when the blood work is done. And eventually we find out that Omega's blood is revealed as a favorable M count replication. So in other words, they're going to be able to use her blood and put it into another clone body, which this is how we're going to get this amazing scene, right?
Somehow Palpatine returned.
I mean, this is obviously where we're all headed. I mentioned that in last week's video. I'm glad they're explaining it. But my biggest problem with the season overall is that it's just repeating itself. Like, we already saw Omega here. We didn't see her in the vault. We do get a short shot of that, her seeing the other kids, which was cool. But I feel like it would have been meant more if we didn't get the whole episode already, which I already said was my favorite episode of the season. But then they do this, and it just doesn't do anything because we already know about it. So I thought it was kind of a miss on the ending. I wish they would have done something more. Like when he said we're going to the vault, I knew that's where we were going. But man, I wish we were seeing. I kept thinking, oh yeah, we're going to see a clone. Are we going to see like Snoke? Are we going to see an image that looks like Palpatine? Are we going to see something else that we don't even know about? That would have been a way to end the episode. Instead, we just kind of get the ending of her seeing the other kids, but we already knew that. So it didn't really do much for me. I don't know, guys. Again, the overall, the episode, I thought it was not great, especially after the last 2, even 3 episodes. I thought we were kind of back to the same thing where we're going to get more information. That person doesn't know anything. So now we got to continue. There's only 3 episodes left. Why are we not doing more with this series? I don't know. It's just frustrating because, like I said, we had Omega. She was on Tantus. She escaped in 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden, Crosshair and Hunter are best friends again. And then we get Asajj Ventress out of nowhere, and she didn't really have the information they wanted. It just, the whole season just seems like it's so repetitive of what we're trying to do. And it really is just to find the coordinates of where Tantus is. That's literally what they've been doing all season long. All right, guys. Well, let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it? Do you like where it's headed? Or did you think this was another filler episode? Also, I will be at the Cleveland Comic Expo this weekend. So if you follow me on Twitter and you follow me on Instagram, I will be posting throughout the weekend where you can find me to come get your own Headless Ned Stark pin. So follow me over there on those social media platforms. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to keep those heads on, and I'll see you guys in the next video.